We have some breaking news to discuss as recent reports have come out highlighting that the Miami Heat could be looking to trade for Dejounte Murray, and multiple insiders are now linking the Heat to a potential Murray trade. So break down those reports and also discuss what a package could look like for the Hawks superstar. So stay tuned for all that in this episode. Before we do, a quick reminder to hit the subscribe button. We notice 98% of you guys who are watching this video right now aren't subscribed. So scroll down and check if you're watching right now and see if you're subscribed. And if you aren't, hit that button for us. We're on the road to 250 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for your continued support, and let's get into the video today, which is a very, very interesting one. And we saw yesterday in our video that there was reports about the Heat being linked to Donovan Mitchell. It is absolutely, as the trade deadline approaches, trade talks time, trade talk season, and the Heat are definitely going to make a big splash, and more reports are coming out highlighting that that is exactly the case. So let's just get right into the report, which is from NBA Central, from Jake Fisher, saying the Lakers, Knicks, Sixers, Heat, and Pistons are 5 suitors expected to engage Atlanta about acquiring Dejounte Murray, per Jake Fisher. Now, the other teams there are also very interesting. Some Eastern Conference rivals. We know the Lakers are seriously pursuing Dejounte Murray. And when you look at Dejounte Murray and how he could fit with the Heat, it's a very interesting one. And I think it's one that many Heat fans could get behind. The biggest issue will be what kind of package will the Heat be willing to part with to land Dejounte Murray. And we'll discuss what kind of player Dejounte Murray is. But let's first look into another report from Jackson Condell, an NBA insider, which is Jake Fisher, says Dejounte Murray is the most likely All-Star to be traded and names the Heat, all these other teams, as the most one. And it seems like in Atlanta with Trae Young and Dejounte Murray, that experiment did not work whatsoever. You can't really have two guards like that playing alongside each other. They both want to be ball dominant. They both want the ball in their hands. So it seems like the most realistic option for the Atlanta Hawks is to trade him. And I think the Heat can give a compelling offer, and I think it makes a lot of sense if you're a Heat fan. It might even make more sense than a potential Zach LaVine, than a potential Donovan Mitchell trade, because of the defensive upside, the bigger length, and kind of the fit alongside these other players. And this is what the exact report had to say. It says, Miami has left rival teams with the impression that the reigning Eastern Conference champions are looking for ball handling reinforcements. The Heat are another suitor to keep an eye on for Murray, although there hasn't been anything substantive beyond initial talks at this point. But the big thing here is that, of course, they are a suitor. And obviously, it's like every other team. There hasn't, the fact that there has been even talks is very important, because most deals won't get done until you get closer to the deadline. The fact they've had talks at this point is very, very interesting. Now, when you look at Dejounte Murray and what he's done so far this season, we know that with the San Antonio Spurs, especially off the season before he got traded, he was a two-way menace. He was an unbelievable player, and he's kind of carried that over to a degree with the Atlanta Hawks, averaging about 21 a game, putting up some very good numbers, not the near triple-double numbers he kind of averaged before. And his defense, although still decent, has fallen off a little bit with the Atlanta Hawks, and that might be their scheme, that might be their coaching, that might be he doesn't really want to be there, he's not motivated. You are playing alongside Trae Young, who's a very poor defender, but Dejounte Murray's defense has fallen off significantly, and that is something to keep in mind if you are the Miami Heat. Now, Dejounte Murray is a pretty tall guard, and if you slot him into this Miami Heat team as let's say their starting point guard, instead of Kyle Lowry, for example, that could be a very interesting team. And especially if he buys into the Heat culture, the Heat system, they can turn him back. We know he has all the tools to be an elite defender. We know he has the tools to average a 20-point triple-double or near it, like he did in 2021 before getting traded to Atlanta. And he's a guy who is very, very good at everything. He's a great facilitator. He's a great rebounder for a guard. He's a very good defender when he wants to be. And if you're the Miami Heat, this is the perfect type of player you'd want. He's had some off-court issues before, but he's the perfect type of player you'd want to buy into the Heat culture. He could be an elite two-way player. He could be the starting point guard. You have him alongside Jaime Jaquez. You have Tyler Hero, guys who aren't necessarily the best defenders. And then you slide Dejounte Murray in there to help elevate everyone else. It could be very, very good. You obviously have Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo as well. Which would it'd be a very interesting defensive lineup if you get Dejounte Murray. And the biggest question would be, what kind of package would you have to give up? We know Atlanta gave up 3+ first-round picks for Dejounte Murray way back a couple of years ago, and it is unrealistic to think that they could recoup those assets, especially because his play has fallen off a little bit. Again, his role with the Spurs, he was kind of the main guy. Now his role with the Hawks is much different. He's kind of playing 1B to Trae Young, but he's 27 years old, in the middle of his prime. He's still an elite player in this league. His defense, again, has fallen off a little bit when you look at the advanced metrics. If you just watch him play, he used to be a ball stopper. Now he's kind of a bit lazier on defense. He still averages a steal and a half a game, or 1.4 steals a game, because of his elite length. And averaging 1.4 steals a game is good in itself, but I think ultimately he's a low turnover guy, still averaging 21 points, the most he's ever averaged since 2021, and tied with the most he's ever averaged on his career. So I love the fit there. He's shot very, very well from the three-point line this season, shooting dang near 40% from the three-point line, which is crazy because damn near 40% is crazy for Dejounte Murray. Let's make that very clear. He is not a shooter. He's never been a shooter, and now he is a shooter this season. It makes all the sense in the world for the Miami Heat to go for this guy, and I'm kind of all in. And when you're looking at what kind of package, this was asked in an Atlanta Hawks subreddit to see what and kind of gauge what Atlanta Hawks fans are kind of looking for here. And it said, would have to be hero plus draft assets, but I just don't think your roster has much that we'd want for what we need. Doubt y'all would make Jaime Jaquez available. And that's the big thing here. To make salaries work, maybe Hero and a first-round pick. And I'm going to ask you all right now, would you do Tyler Hero and one first-round pick, whatever matching salaries ends up being, for Dejounte Murray? Because then you're kind of looking into sliding some other guys into bigger roles. You might have to call up or slide up Caleb Martin from the bench. And then you're losing a guy who averages the same amount of points. But obviously Dejounte Murray is a much more versatile asset. He does a lot more than just score like Tyler Hero does. And Tyler Hero's been decent this year defending. But, I mean, you're giving up a first and you're starting two guard for Dejounte Murray, who would be kind of your starting point guard going forward. And it begs the question, because on all these trades we discussed, whether it's Donovan Mitchell, whether it's Zach LaVine, whether it's Dejounte Murray in this case, most of the teams and the trades we discuss involve either Nikola Jovic and multiple picks, Jaime Jaquez and picks or whatever, or Tyler Hero. And I think the best framework would be Tyler Hero, but then you're kind of also messing with something that has been very good so far this season, which is Tyler Hero and his play. So you're really starting to wonder now if a trade of this caliber could get done for the Heat. And I think it will, and I think ultimately we will make a big move. I just don't know if that move is going to be in the form of a Dejounte Murray type player. I hope so, and it seems like the Heat are very interested, along with the Lakers. But when you're looking at some of these other teams that might have more first-round picks or more players to offer, Jaime Jaquez is probably one of the most valuable assets, aside from maybe Tyrese Maxey and some of these other guys, but none of them are tradable. But I don't think the Heat want to trade Jaime Jaquez, which is crazy to think about because he was the first-round pick last year, and he's had such an incremental growth and such a vast growth so far this season. To think that he's untouchable now in a trade for Dejounte Murray, who was one of the best guards in the league, up-and-coming guards a couple seasons ago, is kind of crazy to think about, but it also makes sense, and it also makes sense because, I mean, you're looking at a team right now that is doing okay in the Miami Heat. Jaime Jaquez could be a player of the future. And the question will be, ultimately, would Dejounte Murray raise the ceiling of this team high enough to a championship? Because you're giving up Jaime Jaquez, if you're giving up Tyler Hero and picks, whatever it ends up being, you want this move, and I keep discussing this as a Heat fan, you want this move, if you're a Heat fan, to bring you up to the championship level. You have Jimmy Butler, you have Bam Adebayo, you have all these guys who have been there for a while and were there when we made the championship a couple times. The question now, or made deep runs, championship once, deep runs a couple times. The championship window is, I guess you can make a case that's now Jimmy Butler's not getting younger, so maybe you go and you full send it and you go ahead and make this deal. But would you rather, and that's what I'll wrap it up with this, would you rather Dejounte Murray, Zach LaVine, or Donovan Mitchell, depending on, obviously, and keeping in mind what they would take to get them? Let me know in the comment section below, and that'll wrap up the video. Again, make sure to hit the subscribe button. A huge percentage of you guys who are watching right now, huge percentage, 98, aren't subscribed, as we produce daily Heat content. Thank you guys for watching. See you tomorrow.